Truth is setting us free. This is a podcast for those of us who want to be set free. Is that you? The basis for most religions is the practice of spiritual principles. However, in the name of religion, wars are being waged across the planet. The intention of this podcast is to take a step above religion by creating a personal relationship with Spirit, or the God of your understanding. These are some of the principles that are setting me and others free. Principles like peace, joy, gratitude, acceptance, patience, tolerance, forgiveness, compassion, and empathy, just to name a few. See if you can identify yourself in the stories that follow and how some of the most inspirational people in my life are practicing these principles and being set free. See if you can be set free through the practice of spiritual principles. I invite you to enjoy what follows. Thank you so much, David, for joining me this evening and participating in a discussion on spiritual principles. I really do believe that as we learn more about principles and how to practice it, more people will be set free. And that's what we're looking for. Freedom in consciousness. So, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do in the community and how compassion really relates to your life? How does your life embody this principle?
For sure. Brother Maurice, thank you for having me in the space with you. I'm grateful to be sharing the space with such wisdom in the room via you, King. And so I'm happy to be here. But before I start, I think one of the ways and one of the things that will define compassion for me is I typically like to pray before I do anything. And Brother Maurice, you know that I'm coming off of an unexpected schedule for today. And so there's been an opportunity for pivot. And so before I open my mouth to say a word beyond gratitude, I wanted to get your permission to open up with some prayer. If I can open up with some prayer first.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because yeah, right. We'll just go in. So taking the opportunity to be here and to be present, to be now, to be in my body in a way that signifies to the universe that I am open, present, ready, willing, and available. Open, present, ready, willing, and available for the goodness of the divine to express itself and to expand itself in, through, as, and by means of me. For I recognize, declare, and know that there is only one life, one universal God presence, one powerful, purposeful, intentional, spontaneous, creative, loving intelligence that holds everything in divine alignment and in divine order. It is the energetic presence at the back of all things known and unknown. And so right now, I claim my divine inheritance as one with this creative love intelligence. I stand here as a channel for the goodness of the divine to express itself. I stand here as a universal life agent who is open, ready, willing, and available for the practical application of the wisdom and the compassion and the love of God. And because I know that by the principle of oneness, if it's true for me, it's true for all. So I give thanks for every heart, soul that experiences this divine connection on this evening, trusting and knowing that each of us are one with this great life. And that because each of us are acknowledging this one grand presence, I can rest assured to know that the time that we share together is already unfolding in goodness, in truth, in love, and in compassion. And so, with a heart filled with gratitude, joyful anticipation of the continuous and perpetual outpouring of the goodness of the divine, I release this knowing into the activity of God's law that always says yes, always has said yes, and will always continue to say yes to our highest and best good. And so, with this authority, with the authority of the Creator, I release this knowing into the activity of the law, removing myself and allowing it to be. And I invite you now to join me in knowing this truth by saying Ashe,
Ashe.
Amen.
Amen.
So it is.
And so it is. Thank you for that prayer, that beautiful prayer.
Ashe. It was for me too. I needed the ground to be reminded. And so, whew.
I do a couple of breathing exercises before starting with the podcast so that I can connect with the ancestors and recognize that breath, the ultimate connection to spirit.
Yes, the life giver, the reminder that something is breathing us as we breathe it. Come on now. All right. So I'm gonna answer your questions and not be out here talking all day because you know how I get down. I'm gonna answer your question. I'm gonna do right.
And I'm just gonna go with the flow. So
I feel it. Well,
however spirit wants to show up, I'm available and open and willing.
Because that's what we have called into the room. I give thanks. So thank you again, King Maurice, for allowing me in the space. My name is King David Lee Walker Jr. I show up in many ways. I literally surrender myself to the will and the call of God, whatever that looks like. If that is cleaning the baseboards with a toothbrush to make sure that a space is prepared, ready, in hospitality, or if that is sitting at the head table with the honoree of whatever event may be happening to engage that person, whatever, there's nothing too big, nothing too small for me to lean into, because I know that the creative, loving intelligence of the universe is flowing through me. So I can do anything. I can do all things through the Christ consciousness that strengthens me. So I don't really box myself into saying I do this. I am what spirit calls me to be in the moment, or whenever spirit calls me to be, because I know that my life, from a standpoint of compassion, my divine life purpose is to be a servant to humanity. That is the vision that has been called over my life. And what I'm learning in this journey, what I have known all my life, is that not always using the same language, but having this feeling, this knowing, is that wherever there is vision, when I can connect to the vision, there will always be provision, meaning I will always have whatever I need to be whatever spirit is calling me to be for whatever time that I'm being called for. So whether that is me being a social justice activist, whether that is me being active at the city council on how we can create self-sufficiency opportunities for those who are at certain socioeconomic places in life, whether that's being a social impact investor by investing in land for stewardship that we can use for artists, creatives who are Black and Indigenous to have a healing space, whether it's being the co-founder of a culturally relevant mindfulness app that brings mindfulness to the Black community for stress reduction in an evidence research-based way, whatever it is. If it's arranging free hugs around the lake, before the pandemic, to get folk to experience, love on a person-to-person basis, whatever it is, service through, a platform, Imagining Justice through Heart and Soul Center of Light as a co-lead and facilitator for that, whatever it is, as an usher, whatever it is, I know that I'm called to see people in a way that other folk cannot see them. When I see God's people, I see the absolute best, and I see their magnificent potential. And my calling in life is to create space for that, whether that is encouraging them and speaking the word of exaltation into their life, whether it is um, creating the container for folk to serve and be seen who typically have not been called to serve or to be seen. I just know that I'm here for God's people, and God's people get on my nerves too. Let's just be real. And and I can't help but love and be whatever the universe is calling me to be, for the expansion of God's creation to operate in oneness and to understand and know and accept who they are as divine emanations of God. That's why I'm here. I don't care what it is. I'm gonna do whatever. I'm gonna go wherever. I'm gonna say whatever, whatever it is. If it's coming from God, I'm gonna say yes every time. Because my 40 years of living have shown me life is so much sweeter that way.
It really is. And I thank you for showing up that way,
I say,
recognizing the power that comes through an experience of an open door. That's what you represent in my life.
I say, thank
So
you.
I'm going to give a brief definition of compassion, but you've already defined it. But I'm just going to give you what the dictionary says. And what it says is compassion is the feeling of empathy or sympathy towards someone who is suffering and the willingness to help alleviate their pain. Does that resonate with you?
It does resonate with me. And as I was listening, an addition might also be to celebrate with someone when they experience something good. Compassion to console someone or to be there for someone when they're in their pain. And then because there's always balance and order in the universe, I would add that it's also being compassionate to celebrate, support someone in celebrating, because at the core of that celebration is that deep witnessing of Salbona, saying, I see you. You did X, Y, and Z, and I want to celebrate you because I honor who you are just for being you. That would be another element that I would add to that definition of compassion.
I can see that. I can see how that would apply. So, my first question, how does compassion fit into the larger framework of spiritual principles?
Yeah. So I like formulas and I like mnemonic devices. I'm a geek, right? I like little things that help me learn and remember. And I like to find ways to make sure things stick for me. And I have this equation that I have been living my life by for the past, maybe with intention, using this language for like maybe the past 4 or 5 years. And the formula is love plus faith equals compassion. And so to break that down a bit, love is the most powerful vibration that there is. It's the answer to every question, regardless of whatever the question is. The answer is going to be love. And love is it's a big principle. And I add faith to that because it's a faith journey. It requires faith to really land in an active journey of love. It requires the faith of God. It requires faithfulness, a willingness to practically apply that love. And so compassion is a combination of both of those to me, to really lean into love and to have the faith to be that love and the faithfulness to practically apply that love. And so for me, compassion is a practical application of love. And it's the modality, it's the energy behind the things that we do when we want to support, folk having their needs met or being seen or whatever the thing may be. So compassion is one of the highest, I think, for me, drivers behind what it is to show love, to demonstrate love. For me, it's the verb. That, they say love is a verb, and I get that 100%. But at the core of love, there's, for me, the compassion is just so deeply rooted in love, or love is rooted deeply in compassion. Both and. But there's just this inner love and compassion for me are like twin sisters and brothers who had kids, like those kind of cousins. Mm-hmm. Like they're very close, right? Sisters and brothers who married sisters and brothers and had kids. That's what I mean. Mm-hmm. But I think, yeah, compassion for me is not pity. Compassion is not pity. Mm-hmm. I'm still seeing you as your highest potential self, and I'm understanding that life is happening to this person who is magnificent, or this situation that's magnificent, and there's an opportunity to pour some more love on it. So compassion drives the application of love for me.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And, for me, all the principles fall out of the principle of love.
Right. Yeah.
Every last one of them.
Some derivative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some derivative of love.
From the river. Is compassion a universal principle across all religions and spiritual practices?
I would say, yeah. In some form, shape, or form, as a universal principle, right? I would say yes. As a universal principle, the religions that I'm familiar with and the spiritual practices that I'm familiar with, compassion shows up in many different derivatives, and it shows up in many ways as well. Compassion for self, compassion for the planet, compassion for our community members, our brothers and our sisters. And I think that, when I think about compassion, I also think about oneness, right? There's no way that I, under the principle of oneness, can be in the space of showing myself compassion and not be poised to be able to show the folk compassion either, or to show the planet compassion. And that, for the most part, is what most spiritual practices and religions are tying us back to, this idea that we're all connected to this one thing that created so many things, and it is the source of our good. I mean, just to break it down pretty simply, right? And so within that is a compassion for self to feel worthy or deserving enough to say that I am one with this big creative love intelligence, and the compassion that drives the audacity to see that in other people. So I think again, all of the religions I know of definitely have compassion woven in some type of derivative.
How can we cultivate more compassion in our daily lives? You're speaking to the community.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to always start and say it starts with self. We can start by showing ourselves compassion. I can start by showing me compassion first. And even in that, it doesn't have to be anything big or grandiose. I can do something practical. The thing about spirituality that I would like to see more of an experience of is the fact that it can be simple. We can do simple things that allow us to. Let me speak from the I. I can do simple things that are still in my mind. I can do simple things that have the same impact and the same effect of doing something that is considered to be grandiose, right? So an example might be for self-compassion. I might give myself the ability to sleep 30 extra minutes, 2 days out of the week of my choosing, outside of my normal schedule. Something very simple. And when I give myself that freedom, that extra compassionate sleep and rest, that supports my deservability and my worthiness consciousness. Because in order for me to receive that gift, there's a part of me that has to feel deserving and worthy. And so that energy can magnify itself from self out into the planet, out to our community members, out to fill in the blank, our family. My whole thing is I have a big calling, on my life. And I get to start with myself, and I get to lean into spaces and be the energetic presence of the change I want to see within the relationships that are closest to me, family. I don't get to run away from family stuff. I get to lean right on in because that is my closest scope of influence. It's my family. And then I move from family to community. And then from community, I move to from there to global, to dot. Take care of home first is is the through line, all that feedback. Take care of home, and then be willing to share the benefits and the fruits of the labor of working on home with the people who you love, who are closest to you. And then that builds up more practice, more comfort, more of a willingness, and then just expand. But over time, it takes time, and the steps, baby steps. Let me do something nice for myself one day a week. You don't have to be big. Start small. Expand the capacity. Yeah.
So many people don't have family.
Yeah.
And they have to create a family of choice. How does compassion help construct the family of choice? And what is the benefit?
So I give thanks in this moment for having been the beneficiary of chosen family and the blessings that it brings. How compassion is interwoven into that process, that experience. Again, I'm going to go back to starting with self, seeing myself worthy and deserving of being in the company of folk who I'm actively choosing to say, hey, I'm literally inviting myself into your space as a chosen family member, and I'm asking you to accept me as a member into your unit. And that compassion for self supports the deservability and the worthiness of being able to even make that ask. Compassion will support how I show up in this chosen relationship, because in a chosen family, my experience has been I haven't known these people all my life. They haven't known me all my life. So there's a level of grace and understanding and getting to know a person as chosen family, because being a friend and then moving into chosen family, like chosen family to me literally means I treat you like family. Good, bad, or indifferent. Whatever my context of family is, you gonna get some of that. Hopefully the highest and best version of it. But folk have to have an opportunity to adjust to that. It's a change. So being compassionate with that type of transition and showing grace and knowing that, hey, I'm bringing myself into your space. So I'm gonna listen, pay attention, and understand. I'm gonna be more present. I think that's how it shows up. All that to say that I show up as more present when I am leaning into compassion with chosen family, because there's so many things for me to consider. I'm not just showing up with my experience. There are other folk who are showing up with their experience as well. And so making space for that. And the benefits of it is, I think, for me, it just reemphasizes a beloved community because as a single man, I have often lived a lone wolf journey. And there are benefits to that, and there are also drawbacks to that. And there's a direct influence on the drawbacks by being in chosen family. I have folk, my safety, having an emergency contact close, like practical stuff. It eases my mind. It brings peace.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's peace in chosen family, and there's comfort. There's community. There's access. Fill in the blank for whatever access is. There's access, and at the core, there's love. The most important piece. I get to choose the people who I want to call family. That's a different type of love. That's a different type of relationship. I didn't get to choose my family in the practical sense. I inherited some stuff, and that comes with whatever it comes with. And in chosen family, I'm choosing to say, hey, I co-sign on you. Will you co-sign on me? Let's do this thing. Let's be family. It's a different energy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, there's a famous saying, I've depended on the kindness of strangers.
Mm.
There have been common causes that have been part of life experiences that bring people together as family. I know during the HIV epidemic, for instance, that many families threw away their children and other family members who may have happened to be living or dying from HIV. And the community came together. That was an example for me of how family can be brought through the experiences that God has presented in our lives in such a way that we've been able to see ourselves and each other and know that the support that we need from family yet can still come from family, the family of our choice.
Because at the end of the day, we all family anyway.
Exactly.
Right? We just get to divide it up how we want to divide it up, or spend our time how we want to spend our time. But we're all family, period, point blank. And that's why compassion is big for me, because ain't no way I'm gonna know that we're all family and be sitting in a place to be a channel for the goodness of God to express and not do it or not be it. That's just like me saying no to my grandma. I know my
Mm-hmm.
grandma and I have a very different relationship than me and a person who I don't know live in a different country. But at the core of what my spiritual practices are, regardless of the relationship, that's still my family.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Can compassion be taught or learned, or is it an innate quality?
the Sagittarius in me is gonna say both and. I'm gonna say both and because I think. Oh, were you about to say something?
When is your birthday? This is Sag territory, right?
It's Sag season all day, baby. Uh, Come on. December 7th. I'm a December Sagittarius. Thank God for consciousness.
Okay.
Oh, but, I think it's both, right? I'm blessed to have an amazing village of wonderful, amazing people. And I've witnessed them embody and practice compassion all my life. And so part of me is like, I don't know if I've always been compassionate or because I grew up in a compassionate family that, excuse me, something I ascribe to, but I would have to say I've left my family. And I still feel like I embody, and I know I embody compassion because that's a choice. I choose to embody compassion. I choose to open myself to expanding into what that means in terms of how I show up. It's a choice for me. But and I see it in my family and in my communities and the villages, the many villages that I'm a part of. I experienced compassion. So I had it modeled all my life, which is a blessing and a beautiful thing and a gift and a wealth that I'm grateful for. And I know that compassion is so deeply rooted into me that if I get a thought about something that is compassionate that the spirit sends to me and I don't do it or be it, I will not be able to sleep, literally, until that thing is done. Or until I've committed and said yes to whatever spirit has brought into my space. I don't do nothing unless God tell me to do. And if I do something and the spirit and it makes people upset but it's clearly a directive from God and not my own ego, I don't care. Take it to God. It's not my business. I'm listening to what God told me to do, and because I'm built for compassion. I love extremely hard. I love so hard. Like I love so hard. And I be meaning it. When I love more people. Like I legit, I'm gonna tell you what. I was a little kid who would watch. You remember the show Touched by an Angel?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was like an elementary school kid when that came out. And I used to watch that show without fail and be crying all the time as a as a as an elementary school kid. And my parents were like, "Why are you watching this show? You cry every time." And I'm like, I remember saying, like, these are not sad tears. There's some of them might be sad, but then they're happy tears. But I've always been in touch with my feelings and emotions, right? And so when I give, I am giving with my all. Like I am tapped in, right? And so I feel like I'm built for compassion. Like I was made, I can't do nothing else but be that. And even when I'm not being compassionate, like if I'm being, because I'm people are peoply, and I don't always get compassion right. And I give thanks that I know how to be accountable with that and cycle back to learn and repair whatever or offer healing around any space where I've not shown up compassionate. Even in being stubborn and strong willed, all of that. Something about getting it right with compassion. It brings me back it's crazy, Brother Maurice. Like it's crazy. Like it will keep me up at night. Like up.
I know what you mean. What is the difference between compassion and pity?
Ooh.
I know you kind of hinted at it earlier, but let's say more about that.
As I'm being compassionate, the essence of the situation, the essence of the condition, the essence of the person is not compromised for me. I'm seeing them as whole, perfect, and complete. The situation is whole, perfect, and complete. And I'm coming from that energy. I'm here standing in the gap, however I might stand in the gap, to serve the situation, to serve this person, to serve fill in the blank. So that person's essence and their worthiness has never been questioned. Pity is seeing something, a situation, people, places, ideas, whatever, through the lens of lack and limitation. It's seeing the situation, the person, the people, the conditions as less than. Pity is almost an othering experience for me. Mm-hmm. And compassion is more of a oneness experience because it ain't you, it's us as one. Pity, oh, poor you. I'm gonna come in and be your. I think about the victim, hero, villain triangle, right? Pity is an energy that sometimes I feel like comes from it's that hero complex. I'm coming to save you, be your savior. I don't want your pity, but I will accept your compassion. I don't want to offer you no pity, and I will offer you compassion, right? So that for me is the biggest difference: is honoring a person's divinity in their wholeness with compassion
Mm-hmm.
and coming from a place of oneness versus pity coming from a less than mindset and an othering energetic.
Gotcha. How do you balance compassion with your own self-care and boundaries?
Ooh, I love boundaries. Love boundaries. You hear me? I was just talking to my cousin today, and I don't want y'all to think I'm rude, but I'm gonna say it anyway. My mother is my sacred friend. You know, the Dalai Lama says that the universe will send you uh people into your life that help you expand. And so my mother has really helped me expand in my compassion and my patience. And I was telling my cousin today that I've set the intention from a compassionate standpoint to always be in relationship with my mother, regardless. Each day is a new day. And we have a beautiful relationship now, right? We've been in journeying together, blah, 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 blah. And in this beautiful relationship, when she steps outside one of my boundaries, I will block her from texting and calling my phone for a day. And we already have established that agreement. Because a boundary is, from a compassionate standpoint, one, I want to be self-compassionate by being mindful about what's being put into my consciousness. If you're upset with me and you're saying things and doing things that are not supporting my consciousness in the way that I'm intending it to, I'm not even about to subject myself to that because I care about myself and I love myself. So I'm gonna put up the appropriate boundary, and I'm not going to allow the role that you play in my life or the title you have in my life dictate that in any way. Mother does not give anybody, mother, father, sister, brother, friend, partner, spouse, does not give uh, anyone permission to impede in my peace. And so I show myself compassion by really exercising my boundaries. Another way is I don't talk to anybody or look at social media or turn on any electronic outside of my phone to listen to my meditation before 9 o'clock. That's my time with God. That's my time with me. That's my time, uninterrupted. If it's an emergency that happened before 9, I wasn't meant to be the person to help with it. Because that time, that's a boundary that I set for myself to be loving and compassionate. Because again, like I said, for me, compassion is a choice. I choose it. Right. And with any choice, I can either choose to or choose not to. And so being able to maintain that time to myself in the mornings puts me in a place of being compassionate for myself to do and to pour into me so that when I am being a servant to God's people, I'm giving from my overflow, not from my essence. Mm-hmm. Right. That's compassion to myself. What was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
Well, the second part of the question is really about looking at compassion and seeing it as a tool, you know, and is the use of a tool like compassion limited in any way? You know,
Oh,
we're balancing compassion with our own self-care and boundaries. So the self-care part of it, you know, I think you actually alluded to, because you're giving out of your overflow instead of your essence. And so that to me is a definite act of self-care. And then the boundaries, you know, that you've established, even in the relationship with your mother, you know, is one that is very important, and one that doesn't pull you into like a codependence
yeah.
kind
Com-
of experience.
compassion is about being honest and truthful with yourself too. Like
Yeah.
I know that I only have a certain amount of capacity for a certain amount of stuff. Let me look. I am compassionate, but I'm not always the nicest person. You know, I don't know that being nice is being compassionate neither. Um, I'm kind and I'm thoughtful and I love and I care and I'm compassionate, but also I'm honest with myself and I know that I have I have a capacity, I have a point where your experience of compassion for me might be a little bit different based on what's been, and so I'm honest with myself about that when I'm self-aware and I self-check, and I let people know within my space if I'm gonna be engaging with them, having a different place today. Right. I think that's compassionate to communicate with folk, to not have people guessing, and to be honest and real with myself about where I am in any given moment. I'm not walking out here. I am listen. I am endeavoring every day to be more like Christ. 100%. I ain't there yet. And so because I know that, I put things in place that help me live my purpose much, in the most efficient and effective way. And so I'm honest with myself. And I'm honest with I use the example with my mom. I'm honest with my mom. Yo, I only have a certain capacity for you at this time. And when I'm done with that, like I'm not about to even try to push it because the experience after that is not going to be good for anyone. And then I'm going to be in a place where I got to come back and circle back and apologize or fix or heal. And that's just, if we already know, let's bypass all of that and just shut it down. So that from a compassion standpoint, I haven't set you into a place or you haven't set me into a place that we don't want to feel. And neither one of us have had to give extra time to go back and do work to undo what had happened. Just if I already know, compassion also shows up in just how it's a practical thing in how we live our relationships. Because I want to be compassionate, I'm gonna communicate in a different way. My communication frequency is going to be different. My tone is going to be a little bit different, and I'm working the tone thing out. I'm actually working on that. But I'm gonna do things that's gonna set us up for success in our relationship. I'm gonna put things in place that's gonna help my business go well because I want to make sure that when I'm talking to people or when I'm sending somebody something that they have a graceful and an easy experience with it. I'm not making them have to think too much, right? Like those are the ways that compassion show up for me in real practical ways, and behavior shifts and behavior changes. Compassion is beyond just the love and all the goodwill. And no, it's how am I showing up every day in my life? How am I making intentional choices that are going to demonstrate to somebody that I am literally being the vibration of compassion? My mama always said, nobody cares how you feel. No one cares at all how you feel or what you intended to do or what you was going to do. What matters at the end of the day is what happened and how you make the people feel. And so how do I set myself up to do that and be that? I gotta be present. I gotta be intentional. Hey, I know I'm coming to a space and this is happening. I'm gonna show compassion by this. All right. There's a level of intention behind it. There's a level of choosing and deciding behind compassion. Like I think compassion gets a rap of this. It's literally not a passive principle. None of them are passive, but this one's definitely not. It's beyond goodwill. It's how can I communicate better? How can I make it easy for somebody to understand?
Can you offer compassion to folks who don't display any compassion at all and are actually how do I put this? That are actually people that harm others intentionally.
Yeah. So this might be controversial. But when the other one was in the office, when I don't want to disrespect your podcast by saying their name and give them their space, but when they were in office, all I could think was, I really just want to give this man a hug. I see his hurt little self. I see his little ostracized little self. I see his little ego popping up in all these different ways. And this person just needs a hug. This is somebody to hug, like not just one of them fake hugs, one of them hugs where you just hold them.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, they can feel the energy of your love by the way that you hold them, the way that you grip them. Right? He needed one of those kind of hugs. And I wanted to give it to him. I said, if I ever see this person, I'm gonna give him the biggest hug and just say, brother, I love you. As difficult as it may have been, that brother is also family. I don't get to say who is in and out of the circle of oneness. I'm not the divine. I'm an incarnation of the divine and a version of the divine. But the creator itself, the source, did not say that. So how do I get to say it? Because at that point, it becomes less about the other person and me not being willing, because there's something in me that does not want to show this person compassion because they're reflecting something back to me that I don't like about myself. It ain't nothing to do with the other person.
Hmm.
So the compassion, like again, it always comes back to me. And so if I can't hug on, love on a person who's done the most despicable thing, something in that behavior is familiar to me and it's aggravating my spirit. And so I do feel like everybody deserves compassion. There, if it's been made available through spiritual law and principle, then it's available to all, everybody, everybody. And it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to. I've struggled with this, brother Maurice. As a social justice person, I've struggled with this so bad over the years. As a young social justice activist, early in my 20s, and even before then, because both my parents are, activists in their own right. And over time, science of mind has helped me really reconcile that. Because Christianity, I was struggling with Christianity, trying to apply only what I knew by context of Christianity. I was struggling. Coming into science of mind, coming into religious science has really helped me reconcile that we all deserve love and compassion and honor and respect. Because guess what? The reason why a person is acting out because they're probably in a deficit of compassion and love and fill in the blank. So why would I deprive a person of something that clearly they need or have not had access to, and it's clearly the result of the behavior that's being expressed. It's less about the behavior and what's underneath it. Get inquisitive. Compassion is also being inquisitive. I'm gonna ask questions to figure it out. I'm not gonna baseline my assumptions based off my little limited ego. I'm gonna ask some questions. I'm gonna lean in, right? Because chances are I might find out something that helps me be more compassionate with this person.
A Course in Miracles says that every action is either love or a call to love. Love or a call to love. There's only two things happening.
Who is the main contributor in both of them? Love.
Right. Well, love is the only thing that exists.
At
The
bottom line.
call to love is one recognizing the idea that they don't see love in a certain situation or condition or personality. But the call to love is always one where the compassion enters into the room, lifts whatever veil may be covering the love, and expose it.
Mm. Mm. Truth, honesty, communication, all of that uncovers, unearths the tools of inquisition, all of it. It's not a goodwill. Oh, I'm gonna do this thing. That's one. Let me go back. That is one way to be and there are infinite ways to
Mm-hmm.
demonstrate compassion, and there are infinite practical ways. If no one else remembers a thing that is shared on this experience tonight, I want to share that there are many practical ways to apply compassion in everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Choices, again, how we communicate, how we prepare, how we inquire, all of it for me
I'm
can be.
part of a fellowship that says if it's not practical, it's not spiritual.
Come on now. You better, they're speaking some words over there about that. I know that's right.
Mm-hmm. So, can compassion help heal relationships that have been damaged.
You know, I almost cussed on your podcast, but I did not. I almost, I almost, I almost cussed just now. See, compassion.
And if you need to, you can.
Hell yeah.
Well,
Hell yeah, they do. Compassion is I think is a major currency in healing relationships. My compassion is going to encourage me to seek to understand and not be understood. That lean in process. Compassion is going to support me in offering someone grace when they're operating in their humanity. Compassion is going to help me and encourage me to see a person beyond their title or their role and honor their humanity. Compassion is going to allow me to know that ain't no way I'm going to be able to hurt this person and myself not be hurt in the process because of oneness. By what I say, by what I do, fill in the blank. You know, compassion is the driver to see the other person, to recognize connection and not separation. So I think it's paramount. I think it's a priority and necessary in any relationship. And again, compassion, it ain't no destination, it's a whole journey. It's an entire journey for me anyway. Cause I have short patience, man. Like I'm really working my patience out. And it's so uncomfortable to carry all this compassion and then also carry impatience at the same time. I'm working it out. I'm working it out.
and it's a day at a time.
The day,
You know, there's wars being waged all over the planet at this very moment, you know, and everybody's asking the question, how is this going to be resolved? And I think you just hit on it. Compassion is that link. You know, it's not revenge that's going to resolve any issue. You know, an eye for an eye, everybody goes blind.
Come on, practical.
Mm-hmm.
Practical. It's compassion. Help me understand if I'm misspeaking, but compassion is considered to be a divine feminine quality, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And we've had a lot of authoritative, conquering energy for thousands of years. And it's gotten us to where we are right now. Insanity, my understanding of the definition, is doing the same shit over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome. This application of highly masculine, I don't even want to say toxic because I don't want masculinity is not toxic in its nature, but the use of it can be. And that application has created this world that we're in. If I want to see something different, I'm going to apply its foil, its complement, which is a divine feminine characteristic. Compassion, love, nurturing. Those are things that we need right now because our humanity and our divinity are being sacrificed. And so the cycle back into divine feminine energy, I think is necessary. We could benefit from some more hugs on the planet.
Absolutely.
Hug somebody. We know there are science behind it. Like to give someone a compliment, to celebrate, to show compassion by celebrating them, by seeing them. Like those things, like being kind, speaking the truth, like letting somebody know, like calling somebody out and calling somebody in. All that is compassion. I think we need that. I think we need, again, Stevie Wonder was, when I tell you prophetic, what the word, come on, love. And whoever else, was it Dionne Warwick, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. Come on. All the artists who have touched that song and brought it out, prophetic, because that's still the same answer. And I go back to my formula: love plus faith equals compassion. They're for me, they're intimately acquainted. And so we need that. We do.
Is compassion related to forgiveness? If so, how?
Yeah. Again, forgiveness is never about the other person. Forgiveness is about it's for me. It's not for the other person. So when I allow myself to forgive and be forgiven, I'm operating in self-care because I've released myself from that jail of fill in the blank, whatever the emotion is. And so forgiveness is self-compassion. So it's compassion for self, it's compassion for others because I am willing to again offer grace. I'm also willing to self and whoever the other party is involved. Forgiveness is also compassion because I release myself to be free from the bondage of of not forgiving. That in and of itself, if I can release, I can be free, which means I can be open and available for the will of God to flow. I'm not blocked by unforgiveness. I'm not carrying that low vibration, right? Because again, what I'm running in my life, those vibrations are not compartmentalized. If I'm walking around here holding energy of non-forgiveness, I better believe it's going to show up in every other part of my life because I don't get to compartmentalize energy like that. And so by releasing that, I'm showing myself compassion so that I can operate at my highest potential.
Reverend E says that how you function in one relationship, you function in all. So there is no separation from.
No, people like to, let me not say people. I know that I used to generalize oneness and make it this big universal thing. But oneness is also down to that practical thing. Like, ain't no way I'm about to be out here living in this energy and not expect it to come in because by the principle of oneness, it's all touching. It's all the same. It's my application of it. And so, yeah, I
That is
feel
that is a high spiritual perspective because the enslavement of people around the planet over time, uh, the enslaver has to believe that he can take his foot off your neck and walk away. Doesn't realize that he is just as captive as you are.
just as captive. And you know, brother, that whole thing right there around compassion is that right there. That slavery thing was. I'm working that out. Especially it's not as rough as it used to be, but I'm still rounding those edges out. It's being a black man from South Carolina of a family of folk who stayed in antebellum South, and that's part that it's just interesting to grow up there with the history that it has, right, around slavery. And
Does
so
your family still live there?
the majority of my family does, yeah, still live in South Carolina. I left when I was 17 for college or 17 for college. And I go back home frequently, at least, two or three times every quarter. Um, work to be done.
It's a work in progress.
Work in progress. That's it. A whip.
How can we differentiate between genuine compassion and performing acts of kindness for selfish reasons?
One more time for me. I got a part of my laptop is about to lose some juice, so I need to plug it up. Can you ask your question one more time for me, please?
How can we differentiate between genuine compassion and performing acts of kindness for selfish reasons?
Mm. This, the response that Spirit just put on my heart was, the transformation happen in the person who is engaging in compassion. That would be my response. If there's no transformation that's happening, then it's performative. So otherwise, what's the point? Transformation, the compassion is not for somebody else. The compassion is for, if I'm giving or doing something, the person or the place or the condition or whatever is a beneficiary of my compassion. But at the core of it, that compassion, that practice, the embodiment of compassion, the embodiment and the feeling of the energy is for me. At that point, I become a channel and a resource for compassion to express, and somebody else is a beneficiary of the behavior. But ultimately, that whole experience, that whole journey is around me. And if I am David being transformed in the process of being compassionate or doing a compassionate thing, then it's authentic to me. It's not performative at that point. So simple definition. Like I told you, I like simple equations.
Mm-hmm.
No transformation equals performative.
Can you tell the difference when somebody else is performing
Oh yeah,
compassion?
yeah. Oh yeah. And part of it is because I can feel and read energy, and so sometimes I'm fair. But yeah, and I can feel when I'm not coming from the right place, and I got to start over, right? Like I can feel it in my own self. I can
Mm-hmm.
see it in my own self, which is probably why I can see it and feel it in other people when it's disingenuous.
Mm-hmm.
When it's and it's the subtle. It's just the subtle things. I pay attention to everything, like I do. That's just part of how I'm wired. I pay attention to everything, and the person who's waiting to do the thing and to time the thing just right, or to take up more space than what's required, to be grandiose about it. Like this, I mean, there are many ways that it shows up that I can just and then that's where, from a place of compassion, I have to make sure I don't move into judgment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that person is in their journey with compassion, because at some point, I don't know. At some point, my performative birthed or evolved into authentic. So I can't judge a person where they are on their journey. So I can receive them where they are. Right. I've learned to not have expectations of nobody.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't maintain my agreements to myself 100% of the time, how am I going to expect somebody else to do that? That is not compassionate. And so
Mm-hmm.
when a person shows up and however they're showing their compassion, I'm just grateful that they're on the spectrum, and then I have faith and trust that wherever they are on their journey, that just as I have been able to continue to evolve in mine, that they will also too. It goes back to that pity, guilt, just like it's all the same thing. I have to still see this person as whole, even though I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they showboating or they whatever. They're not being authentic or genuine. I can say that, and I can know that from 100% of a doubt, whether I'm right or wrong, doesn't matter. Because my job at that point is just to see that person through the lens of compassion, just receive them where they are on their journey. Right? I don't get to judge that. I don't get to be like, tell somebody who made me the gold star standard of what compassion is. Nobody. It's a self-appointed thing. God didn't tell nobody that. No, behind no burning bush or nothing like that. I just know what the gift I have, and when I see it not being executed in the way that I feel is authentic, it don't even really matter for real. Who am I? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I hear
So
you.
receive it where it's at. But I do think, but yeah, people, that's part of the human condition. There's gonna be a little level of performative, and all that performative stuff is rooted in a lot. But in my own journey out of that, because I've been there, right? My journey out of that has been when I really accepted myself for exactly who I am, all
And I
of it.
think that's the point. Acceptance, self-acceptance.
Yeah,
understanding that you don't have to prove anything to anyone.
Nothing.
There's nothing you can add to or take away from the child of God that was made perfect.
Brother Maurice, when I was released from that, when I tell you my whole life shifted, I'm about to be 40 on December the 7th. And it feels like around like 7, 8 months ago, my level of compassionate unattachment to a lot of things really started. The main one being my compassionate unattachment to anyone else's judgment about me in any way, shape, or form. I kind of actually really don't care. I really don't. I don't. Not in the sense of, I'm not attached to another person's sentiments about me. How it doesn't matter because I know who I am because I'm doing the work every day to uncover that person. So I trust my work and I trust because ain't no way you're gonna be able to know more about me. Because if you know more about me, that means you're doing twice the work that I'm doing, and I know ain't no way possible that a person can do that. So I'm the expert on this over here, right? And that's another. Confidence is also compassionate. To show up in my confidence is a way to be compassionate because I in doing so I give other folk permission to stand in their own. That's compassionate, creating the space and the container for folk to live their highest and their best magnificent potential by me standing in what I stand in strongly and firmly and sometimes audaciously.
I think the greatest gift that we can give ourselves and spirit is our authenticity in every moment,
That's right.
being authentically who we are. And that is something that changes. And as we change, showing up as authentically as we possibly can in that moment. Not in a way, though, that um, puts other people in harm's way or in situations that may be even harmful to ourselves, but making sure that I am, depending on the circumstances, being as authentic as I possibly can be. You know, um, I was watching a special that Trevor Noah did recently, and he was talking about being appropriate in his authenticity. And I really got what he was saying.
That makes me think about my my mama, my grandma, and my grandparents had two sayings related to that. First of all, everything is not for everybody.
Mm,
So everybody don't get the same. It's just and there's a time and a place for everything.
yes.
I can be all now I cuss, but I'm not about to be all up on your podcast just cursing every word out of my mouth because that's not appropriate, right? Um a part of I'm a part of this group out here in Eau Claire called the Embrace Team. And one of our taglines is that we are spiritually ratchet. I like ratchet music. And I also am spiritual. You don't get to put no box around me. I'm not gonna let that happen. And I was talking to another new colleague, and their tagline is righteous and ratchet. I get to be all of it when as it is appropriate. Cause all of that. Like I get to be, I get to be, and it's all good. It's all okay as it's grounded in consciousness. Because consciousness for me is not about good or bad. For me, consciousness is about me being clear about my behavior choices and my practices, and being clear about what the infinite possibilities of impact could be through the principle of oneness. It don't mean I'm always choose the thing that other people would say is right or good. I'm gonna be present I'm gonna be present and open and free for whatever spirit says is the thing to do or be. So living by somebody else's standards, miss me with that. I'm cool. Did that for a long time. Not doing it ever again, ever.
Yeah, that's a difficult task for many of us, you know, um, not living up to the expectations of others, especially family. They will put hurt on family members because they don't think that their safety, um, their safety outside of the experience that they've already had themselves. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I'm gonna throw my family some gratitude again. And I said earlier I didn't choose my family, but I think I did, low key. Because I was raised by people who do not care about what nobody think about them. So again, compassionate folk, but folk who I don't, in my experience with them, did not live their life that way, have not lived their lives that way, and raised me not to. Now, whatever I chose to do when I left the confines of that community, that beloved community, that was all on me.
Mm-hmm.
But your homeboy has returned right on back to home to what I was raised with in terms of consciousness around be who you are. And basically, their message was, this whole thing around being accepted and not tolerated. Because the
Mm-hmm.
people who are gonna rock with you, they're gonna rock with you based off of who and how you are. And those who are not, they're not, and it's okay. Everybody is not for everybody, just like that's a real thing. It's okay. Like the world's not going to end because you don't like how I show up. Then go. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Go find one of the other ones and be with them. It's okay. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna still show you love. I'm gonna still operate in oneness, but you're not gonna get to impede on my authenticity, not ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a group of people that have already been cured. Where there is vision, there's purpose. And sacred life has gone ahead of me, providing what I need before I needed it. And so before I even came to this planet, the universe already created the people who I'm supposed to be living my life with in community in that way. And so I ain't got to force or push nothing because I don't have to do that. So I'm not going to. All right. But my family, that's how my family raised me. And that's how they behave, like to this day. When I say my family, I mean my immediate, my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my aunts and my uncles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Older cousins. That's part of our family legacy right there. We're gonna be authentic. Whatever that means, good, bad, or indifferent. We're gonna be that.
Yeah, and that's a blessing. It really
It,
is.
it really is. I'm
Uh,
grateful for my family, man. I'm so grateful. They show compassion in so many ways that are unorthodox, right? They will speak the truth on you in a minute, but it's from a place of compassion. You may not want to hear it, but nobody ever died from not hearing something they want to hear. They didn't want to hear.
in what ways does practicing compassion benefit society as a whole?
Helps people be seen, feel seen. Again, I think that speaking truth to power is rooted in compassion. I'm not just gonna have you out here all over the place when I've been shown something that could be helpful. I'm gonna share it. Now I can't make you do nothing, but I can share it. All right. So speaking truth to power, compassion informs folk. Compassion brings in. I know it has health benefits as well. Like our vitality is strengthened, and our physical health and our mental well being are all impacted in a positive way by showing compassion and receiving compassion. The beautiful thing about showing and giving each one is that everybody wins in that circulation, right? I feel like for me, when I'm being compassionate, I can be more clear in my thinking. Compassion helps me wipe away some of those cobwebs that ego wants to put in the way. Ultimately, I think compassion really does strengthen the feeling of oneness so that there's not the feeling of being alone. Right. I think it helps with isolation. It helps with so many things. It's medicine, man. I think when I was probably 30, 30 years old, I was really heavy on reading Proverbs in the Bible. Proverbs was really heavy for me, and all the books of the Bible that contain King David, because I'm a I,
Right.
I rock I
I'm
rock
already knowing.
right. I rock with King David, right? And King Solomon, right? Because that's my great grandfather's name, and he's somebody I really looked up to and still look up to as an ascended ancestor. But I oftentimes I found myself praying for expansion and the wealth of things that were intangible. All right, like I had come out of materialism. I've never been a materialistic person. Stuff has never been my thing. Experiences, right, have been my thing. I'll like, yeah, don't buy me nothing for Christmas. Take me somewhere.
Right. Me
uh,
too.
right, as a kid, I was like, I will play the little games and be done in 30 days over it. Like I lost interest. um, clothes. Like this never intangible things. And so at 30, I was praying for a lot of intangibles, and wisdom, love, and compassion have been intentional prayers for me to expand in, at least with intention since I was 30. And I prayed for those things and I ushered those things into my life because those are the things that actually really have value. That's where the true wealth is. And I spent a lot of time in my mid 20s and early 30s, like chasing wealth. And what I came to realize was that I was already wealthy. I am already wealthy. I have compassion. I have love. I have honor. I have respect. Those are the things that have the most value. And at the end of the day, what I was searching for with this whole money thing, and it wasn't even about prosperity and abundance, it was specifically money, right? That was my way of peace. But compassion and wisdom and love provide me more peace than money could ever provide me. Now, I make space for money. I welcome money. And I'm affirming that I'm a billionaire entrepreneur and a billionaire philanthropist. I'm affirming that, right, for a very specific purpose, to continue my purpose of compassion, to being a servant to God's people. Being a billionaire ain't nothing about, it's not about me flossing, it's about me being able to circulate in a way that can be the ultimate form of compassion for me, right? Um, but those intangibles, I think they make the world go round. And then at the end of the day, that's the shit that matters. It really is.
Yeah, I've seen people lose their humanity behind chasing money.
Yeah.
It's a an addiction. It is a worship that absolutely distracts us away from the glory of God.
And the
How?
money, sorry,
Go right ahead.
I was going to say the money in and of itself is not a bad thing because money is I'm learning that money is the symbol, the energetic symbol of services rendered, right?
Yeah.
And so money ain't a bad thing. Is when the money is taking the place of something spiritual.
Hmm. It's the love of money.
I love money too, though. I love money. I do. I make it welcome, but it's not my master though.
Hmm.
I'm not surrendered to money. I'm not a servant to money at all. I love you though, homie.
How can social media be used in a compassionate way?
Go away. I was
I beg your pardon.
no, dude. I'm sorry. But that was the first thing I thought. I just need to go away. Um,
This is my attempt at using social media in a compassionate way, developing a podcast,
yeah, and
speaking on spiritual principles.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate that. Um, Another way might be, I know for me, the way I do it. like I'm real big on the people who are important in my life, really celebrating them on their birthdays. Like really doing a little album of pictures over time, saying some words of just love and expressing how much I'm grateful for them in my life. That's one way, or one random act of kindness at a time. Just go on somebody's page you don't know and say something nice. I think that the social, just communicating in a kind way, I think is a great way. Um, Lifting somebody up, bigging somebody up is a way to show compassion. If you see a business owner, entrepreneur who's doing something on social media, share their shit. Like that's the way to be compassionate. Like just have an objective outside of my own serving my own needs and recognition to feed my ego. That ain't no, that's what social media is basically, ego feeder. Um, so what can I do to feed somebody's God ego, not their selfish, no small ego? How
Yes.
what can I do to encourage that, whatever that looks like? Or another way is to share the shit that's not glamorous or glorious.
What do you mean by that?
Like, you know, social media has become a place for a lot of folks to share their absolute best self. But share the moments where you didn't fail on something and something didn't quite go your way and you learned something. Like that's compassionate to share wisdom. Like I did this thing, it was hurtful. Be vulnerable on social media in a way that's not seeking attention, but in a way that is sharing a testimony and in a way that shows somebody else what's possible for them.
Mm-hmm.
You use the platform to share testimonies, right, of goodness, of how there was a learning process or an evolution in one's life that got them to the next level in their spiritual journey, or of how a relationship was difficult with a parent, and because I was able to do X, Y, and Z, my relationship with my parent is now this. Like that those kind of stories that are not glamorous and glorious, but demonstrate and show what's possible with choice and intention, I think was another way to show compassion. Compassion to self, to be courageous enough to be vulnerable, and compassion for others by showing what's possible.
I've always wanted to highlight those situations where people have been challenged with their emotional, mental, or spiritual health and overcame those situations with faith
Yes.
and trust
Yes.
and compassion.
Yes. Because there is power in the testimony.
Yes.
Outcome ain't for nobody else but you. What could be helpful to somebody else is what was the journey to get from point A to point B. That's where the magic and that's where the juice is.
Mm-hmm.
Reverend Andriette says as often people want to run up out of that cocoon phase and not talk about that, but want to just people want to tap in on your butterfly phase, but there was nowhere to be found when it was nasty in that cocoon in the larva stage. But
Mm-hmm.
folks want to flock around when your wings out here bright and flying. But
Right.
that messy soup larva point is where the meat is. That's where the magic is. That's where the practical application of those spiritual tools, that's where we get to see the demonstration of that happening.
Mm-hmm. The transformation,
Transformation. That's the
the expansion of consciousness,
all of that.
the knowing that comes through the experience of tapping into that power that knows exactly who we are.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. That's it, right? That's compassion. Demonstration is compassionate. Demonstration of any form. If I can demonstrate that a thing is possible, it's encouraging to someone else.
How can we cultivate compassion toward those who disagree with or hold differing beliefs?
First of all, realizing that folk are entitled to have their own beliefs. First of all, and that we don't get to control somebody else's beliefs about something. That's the first thing. is by knowing your lane and staying in it in terms of a person's personal beliefs.
Hmm.
The second thing is a person's beliefs do not make them less of the same stuff that I'm made of. It doesn't make them less divine, less nothing. They just happen to believe something different. Um, I think compassion in that process shows up when you just create space for a person to be them and to be able to have a differing thought. Attacking the person, and not even say the word attack, but disagreeing with someone does not. I think it would be not compassionate to agree with everybody. Where's the learning in that? Where
Exactly.
where's the growth in that? Where is the opportunity to grow and expand in that by having a differing opinion? So I think that it's good to have different beliefs because that's how we grow.
How can practicing compassion help us through difficult and challenging situations?
Well, the compassion shows up as giving myself grace to make missteps on that journey, whatever it might look like. Compassion shows up as me willing to actually get in the pool and swim and be present in whatever it is that's happening. Because again, that allows me to build and to get stronger, to get wiser, to get better. And so I'm being compassionate to myself by giving myself the chance for that to happen. Yeah, that's it.
Can compassion be a path towards spiritual growth? No, let me change it. How has compassion contributed to your spiritual growth and enlightenment?
It's helped to minimize my ego a whole lot. It's helped me to operate from my God self more. It's given me more patience. It's been a great mirror to reflect back my shadow parts as well, right? Because I mentioned earlier that compassion for me is a choice, and I don't always choose compassion. And when I don't, it's light is shine on a place where I can put more prayer and more intention around being more my more divine self. So it's a great mirror. It's it's also a great encourager because every time I'm compassionate, I get this feeling of bliss within my whole countenance. My physical body, my spiritual, everything just feels good and feels right. It feels natural. It feels like this is the way things are supposed to be. It feels like I'm in alignment when I am compassionate, and that has an energetic feel within my body, which I know has to be supporting my mental health and my physical health and my mental and my emotional health. Um, yeah, it makes me feel like I'm one with all of life as I'm being compassionate. I feel oneness in a completely different way. I'm seeing all these different versions of the beauty of God being expressed as our people, being expressed as the plants, as the animals, all of it. I'm able to be present, and I am. Compassion helps me to be alive with the life that I'm living, just to literally be alive with life. And that feels like bliss. That's that whole thing around not having to die and go to heaven, but having the opportunity to experience heaven, bliss, nirvana, whatever word you want to use, like right here and now in the present. I have to wait to go experience. I get to experience that every time I'm coming from a place of love and compassion and faith.
I believe I'm actually living two lives in the same life experience because of the challenges that I've had in the past. And I'm understanding now, that that power of transformation is real,
Mm.
and it's available to every last one of us
At any given moment,
at any given moment.
every breath is an opportunity. Everyone.
And I'm filled with joy
Mm.
when I recognize the presence through the circumstances and situations that feel and look good and those that don't.
Right.
I know
Right.
that I'm present
Mm.
as a individualized expression, expressing out of this consciousness of love.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives uh, value to even the mundane. David,
Yes, sir.
oh my God. I just want to give thanks, for
Mm.
this opportunity that Spirit has created to speak through us,
Mm.
as us,
Mm.
to the world. I truly believe that this conversation will be a light
Mm.
for many members of the community who are looking for ways to show up authentically
Mm.
and to be I look for opportunities to release those labels, that we've placed on ourselves. Anything but a child of God
Mm. Missed me
is,
with it.
is a label that reduces the reality of who I really am as this human being, this spiritual being, and the way that I relate to everything and everyone in my life. And it has been um, a joy to meet you and to get to know you, David. And, from the moment that I met you, I remember that exercise we did in one of our classes where we were asked to look into each other's eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Salbona, I
Mm.
saw, I saw who you are. And I said to myself that this young man is taking it to a whole nother level.
Mm.
And with him, he's bringing other people. Highest respects.
Mm.
I'm cognizant of your time, and I know you've had a long day, and I hope you have a wonderful rest this evening because you have poured into this podcast and it will pour into the lives of many.
I say. And so it is. We give
So it
thanks.
is.
Thank you.
Peace, my brother.
Peace unto you, King.
Have a wonderful Thanksgivings and a blessed holiday for the rest of the year.
Back at you. Times two. Good
Thank you. Have a good night.
evening.
Thank you for listening. I'm grateful for the opportunity to give you an insight into how we may practice these principles in such a way that freedom comes to each of us. It's a commitment that I hope each of you can make to this practice that I know has set me and others free from the chaos and the confusion. Thanks for listening.